Listen carefully, because heaven has pressed pause on everything around you so that this word can find you. You are not here by accident. You did not stumble into this moment by chance. You are standing at the edge of a divine announcement that separates those who blend in from those who rise up. You are not like the rest. You were set apart before you ever took your first breath. This is why the world could never quite understand you. Why you often felt like the outsider. Why you carried burdens that seemed too heavy for one person to bear. It was never punishment. It was preparation. You are God's chosen one. And something you did recently, maybe it seemed small. Maybe it felt like nothing has already set into motion a wave that will reach millions. Do not underestimate what heaven can magnify. Your obedience, your persistence, your hidden act of faith was noticed. Even the smallest seed planted in trust becomes a forest in the hands of God. That is why you are here. Reading this word now so that you would not give up before the breakthrough. So that you would recognize your destiny before it arrives at your doorstep. Do you remember the tears you cried alone when no one was watching? Do you remember the nights when you felt like your prayers bounced back in silence? Do you remember the times when you wondered if God had forgotten you, beloved? Those tears were not wasted. Those prayers were not ignored. Those lonely nights were not unseen. Heaven records every cry. And the Lord is faithful to repay every ounce of pain with a weight of glory that cannot be compared. You have not been disqualified by your mistakes. In fact, your scars are the very evidence of your calling. Listen closely. The enemy has tried relentlessly to convince you that you are too broken, too late, too flawed, too weak to carry out what God has placed in your spirit. But that is a lie forged in the pit of darkness. You are chosen precisely because you are not perfect. You are chosen because your weakness becomes a testimony of God's strength. Your flaws become windows for His light. Your rejection becomes the platform of His acceptance. The Apostle reminds us in his first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 27, "But God chose the foolish to shame the wise. God chose the weak to shame the strong." This scripture is not about someone else, it is about you. You are the living example of how God turns weakness into victory. You are the sign to your generation that being overlooked is the secret strategy of heaven. Chosen one. This is the moment to stop hiding your crown under the weight of fear. This is the hour to lift your head and recognize that the mantle on your life is not ordinary. What you carry cannot be silenced. What you carry cannot be contained. Your very presence unsettles darkness, because light cannot be ignored. Every room you enter, every word you speak, every act of kindness you release, it shakes the unseen world. Do not be surprised that you have faced opposition. Do not be surprised that jealousy and misunderstanding have stalked your path. Do not be surprised that spiritual warfare has intensified. These are not signs of failure. They are confirmation of calling. The enemy only resists what he fears. And you, beloved, terrify the kingdom of darkness. Your destiny is not small. It is not hidden. It is not insignificant. It is radiant, massive, global. That is why the Spirit has arrested you in this very moment, to remind you that you are not to give up, not to shrink back, not to delay. There is a crown waiting, and you must not trade it away for temporary comfort or compromise. This is your time to step forward. This is your time to assume the role heaven has been whispering to you all along. And here is the truth: what you did recently, a prayer you prayed, a risk you took, a stand you made, an act of generosity you gave, or even a decision to walk away from something toxic was the ignition point. You may not see the ripples yet, but they are moving. Heaven has already multiplied it, and soon the evidence will come rushing in. You will see doors open that were locked. You will see provision come from unexpected sources. You will see people drawn to your light in numbers you never imagined. Millions will be touched, directly or indirectly, by the chain reaction you set into motion. But you must choose now to embrace it. You cannot return to the shadows. You cannot mute your voice. You cannot apologize for being anointed. You cannot act small when you were made to carry something immeasurable. Beloved, the crown is not for tomorrow. The crown is for today. Lift your head. Lift your voice. Step into it. This is the call. Do not hold back. If this word resonates with the fire inside you, I want you to act prophetically. Subscribe now so that you never miss what heaven is releasing through this channel. Share this with someone you know is chosen, so that they, too, may awaken. And as a prophetic act, declare it in the comments by writing this number 777. That number is a seal, a sign of divine completion, a symbol that you are stepping into the fullness of your calling right now. Write it with faith, and heaven will honor it. Chosen one. Let us walk deeper now into the chamber of your soul, where the unseen scars live and breathe. You carry hidden wounds, but you must also recognize that these wounds are not disqualifications. They are the very soil from which your hidden strength has grown. Every tear, every unanswered question, every season of silence was not meant to crush you, but to forge you into something unbreakable. Think of the countless times when life struck you without mercy. Perhaps it was betrayal from those you trusted, rejection from the very places you sought refuge, or the silence of friends when you needed them most. Perhaps it was the grinding weight of responsibilities you were too young to carry, or the sting of words spoken against you that left invisible bruises on your heart. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still chosen. Beloved, this is no accident. You were refined in fire so that you could walk into destiny without fear. You were pressed so that oil could flow from your life. You were broken so that light could shine through the cracks. The world only saw your pain, but heaven saw your preparation. What looked like loss was shaping you into someone who could carry the weight of millions. Do you remember those seasons when everything seemed unfair? When others appeared to advance while you were left behind? Those seasons birthed in you something rare: resilience. You learned to keep walking when others quit. You learned to worship with nothing in your hands. You learned to find God in the silence. And in those lonely nights, strength took root deep within you. A strength the world could never give, and the world can never take away. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah. Chapter 31, verse 25. I will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. These words are a reminder that your exhaustion was never the end, it was the threshold to renewal. God Himself has carried you through moments that should have destroyed you. Where others collapsed, you endured. Where others surrendered, you stood your ground. Chosen one, never forget, your scars are testimonies, not shame. They are proof that you walked through fire and did not burn, that you passed through waters and did not drown. These wounds have carved into you the compassion that will touch others when they hear your voice. Your pain has trained you to recognize the silent battles of others, to see beyond the smile, to hear the unspoken cries. This empathy is your secret weapon, for it will draw hearts to you in ways talent or power never could. It is easy to resent the suffering you endured, but heaven wants you to reinterpret it. What if the very things you wish had never happened were the keys to the authority you now carry? What if the rejection you faced was the pruning that kept you from shallow success and prepared you for lasting impact? What if the loneliness you endured was heaven's way of separating you from distractions so you could hear the whisper of destiny? Do not curse your history. Redeem it. Your story will become the rope others cling to when they are drowning. Your transparency will become the bridge that carries them to hope. Your scars will become the evidence that survival is possible. And because of this, millions will listen, not because you are flawless, but because you are real. Beloved, the weight of hidden wounds often makes you question your worth. You may wonder if you are strong enough, good enough, or holy enough to fulfill what God has promised. But here is truth: God never called you because you were ready. He called you because He is ready to work through you. The cracks in your vessel are not flaws to be fixed. They are openings for His glory to pour out. This is why your recent act of faith carried so much power. You did it while still wounded, while still questioning, while still healing. That is what heaven honors, not perfection, but faith in the middle of imperfection. That is what moves mountains, shakes atmospheres, and unlocks blessings. Do not despise the weakness you still feel. It keeps you anchored to God. Do not despise the lingering questions in your heart. They keep you searching. And in your searching, you find Him again and again. What others might see as limitation, heaven sees as fuel for greater intimacy, deeper strength, and broader impact. Beloved, lift your eyes for a moment and imagine the multitudes who will one day look back at your life and say, if they could survive, so can I. If they could rise, so can I. If they could walk through darkness and still shine, so can I. That is the ripple of your hidden strength. It will travel across generations, across nations, across languages, touching lives you may never meet until eternity. You must understand your scars are a prophecy. They declare to the world that suffering is not the end, that pain is not the final chapter, that hope does not die in the ashes. Every wound you carry has been rewritten by God into a message of victory. Every broken place has been filled with light, and every loss has been exchanged for eternal gain. Chosen one, let these words sink deep. You are not defined by what happened to you, but by what you became through it. You are stronger than the rejection. You are greater than the betrayal. You are more than the pain. You are chosen not despite your wounds, but because of them. The world needs your story, not the polished, perfected version, but the raw, scarred, authentic truth. When you share it, chains will break. When you share it, captives will find freedom. When you share it, others will discover the courage to rise. So walk boldly now, even with your scars. Wear them not as reminders of defeat, but as medals of honor. For every wound is proof of survival, and every scar is proof of victory. Chosen one, do not forget this truth. The darkest battles you fought in secret have become the silent anointing that rests on your life. When you speak, it will carry authority. When you act, it will carry weight. When you move, it will shift atmospheres, because your wounds are not wasted. They are weapons now, forged in fire, sharpened by pain, empowered by grace. Rise, scarred one, rise. Wounded one, rise. Chosen one. The world is waiting not for someone flawless, but for someone who has walked through the fire and lived to tell the story. That someone is you. Chosen one. Open your heart now, because what just happened in your life was not random. There was a sign, a moment, a shift, something that felt unusual, almost too precise to be coincidence. It might have been a conversation that pierced you deeper than expected, a dream that left you unsettled, an opportunity that appeared suddenly, or even a closed door that disappointed you. At first, you may have dismissed it as nothing, but heaven is whispering, "That was me." You must understand this truth. God rarely announces his movements with thunder and lightning. Often, he hides his voice in the ordinary. A simple encounter becomes prophetic. A chance moment becomes destiny. A small decision becomes the opening of a greater path. The event you experienced recently is such a moment. It was not meant to pass you by unnoticed. It was heaven's coded message to awaken you, to let you know the next season is already opening. Beloved, how many times in your life have you looked back and realized that what felt like coincidence was actually divine design? The friend who showed up when you were at your lowest. The timing that seemed inconvenient but turned out to be perfect. The closed door that led you to the right opportunity. Each of these was God's hand, guiding, redirecting, orchestrating. And now, the sign you just received is no different. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. This is what your recent sign means. You don't have to force everything. You don't have to manipulate outcomes. You don't have to exhaust yourself trying to hold everything together. God himself has stepped into your situation. The sign was proof that the battle is no longer yours to carry alone. Chosen one. Think carefully about how you felt in that moment. Did your spirit stir? Did your heart beat faster? Did your mind try to reason it away? But something deep inside refused to ignore it. That was the Spirit, confirming it was no accident. You are being guided, step by step, into the very place you were designed to stand. But here is where you must be alert when heaven sends a sign. Hell will always try to twist it. The enemy will whisper, "That was nothing. Don't read too much into it. You're imagining things." Why? Because he knows that recognizing a divine sign activates faith, and faith activates miracles. If he can make you doubt the sign, he can delay your destiny. Do not let him steal this moment from you. Beloved, your task now is not to explain the sign away, but to embrace it, hold it in your heart, replay it in your memory, write it down so it is not lost, because soon this single event will connect with others, like pieces of a puzzle, until you see the full picture. Understand, this God does not waste signs. He sends them at precise times, knowing you are ready to perceive them. The fact that you noticed it means you are already awakening, already aligning, already stepping into a higher dimension of awareness. Now, here is your prophetic act. In the comments, I want you to write these simple words: I choose my crown. Why this declaration? because the sign you received was not just a gentle nudge, it was a royal summons. It was heaven telling you that your season of hiding is over. By typing those words, you are sealing your response, declaring that you accept the mantle placed on your life. Do not take this lightly. Words are seeds. When you write, "I choose my crown," you are planting a seed in the soil of faith. That seed declares that you will not run from your calling. You will not shrink back into fear. You will not surrender your inheritance. It declares that you are ready to wear what was always yours, even when others doubted you, even when you doubted yourself. Imagine yourself standing in a great hall. The king approaches with a crown, radiant and heavy with glory. He holds it above your head and says, "It is yours, but you must choose to receive it." The sign you just experienced was that moment. Typing the words, "I choose my crown," is your act of reaching out, bowing your head, and saying, "Yes, Lord, place it upon me. Beloved, do not delay." Too many chosen ones have missed their timing because they ignored the signs or dismissed them as coincidence. But you are different. You are awakening. You are stepping into the flow. You are recognizing heaven's handwriting in the ordinary. That is why your destiny is accelerating. Reflect for a moment on how your life has been guided until now. Every trial that should have broken you only prepared you. Every rejection that wounded you only redirected you. Every moment of silence only sharpened your ability to hear when God finally spoke. And now, He has spoken not with thunder, but with a sign. Chosen one, here is what comes next. You will begin to notice more. Your spiritual sensitivity will heighten. Things you once ignored will suddenly seem significant. People will cross your path with words that pierce your heart. Circumstances will align in ways that cannot be explained. Do not dismiss them. Collect them. They are breadcrumbs leading you into your destiny. And remember, these signs are not the destination, they are the guideposts. They are meant to point you to the one who writes your story. Do not worship the sign. Do not obsess over it. Instead, let it lift your eyes to the God who sends it. He is faithful, and He is leading you into a place far greater than anything you imagined. Beloved, the crown awaits, but the journey begins with recognition. You saw the sign. You felt it in your spirit. Now seal it with your declaration. Write it boldly. Write it with faith. Write it as an act of agreement with heaven. I choose my crown. When you do, you align yourself with the very purpose of God. You declare to the unseen realm that you accept your authority. You embrace your identity, and you step into your inheritance. And when you choose it, nothing, no demon, no lie, no fear, no opposition can take it from you. Chosen one. The sign was real. The calling is real. The crown is real. And the time is now. Chosen one. Pause and let your spirit breathe. The sign you recently received was not just a random confirmation, it was the doorway into something far greater. Now it is time to understand the mechanics, the spiritual law that has been working all along. Often hidden, often underestimated, the law of assumption. This principle is not merely an idea, it is a divine technology placed within creation, waiting for you to use it with intention. The law of assumption simply says this: what you believe deeply, what you accept as already true, will manifest in your reality. Heaven responds not only to your words but to the posture of your heart. the silent convictions shaping your every step. Faith is not a vague hope, it is assumption clothed in spiritual authority. When you assume you are chosen, blessed, unstoppable, and destined, reality bends to align with that truth. Beloved, you may not have realized it, but you have already used this law many times in your life. Think back to moments when you felt certain about an outcome, even if everything around you suggested otherwise, and somehow it happened. Perhaps you decided you would survive a difficult season, and survival came. Perhaps you assumed a door would open, and it did. These were not coincidences. They were glimpses of a law written into the fabric of existence. Yet many chosen ones live beneath their inheritance because they assume wrongly. They assume failure is inevitable. They assume rejection defines them. They assume their past limits their future. These assumptions are also seeds, and they too produce fruit of delay, discouragement, and despair. That is why this revelation is critical. You must take authority over your assumptions. You must choose deliberately what you believe about yourself, about your destiny, about your God. It is written in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 7, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he." These words are ancient, but they carry timeless truth. Your reality is not shaped primarily by what others think about you, but by what you think about yourself. If you assume you are small, your life shrinks. If you assume you are chosen, your life expands to match the crown. Chosen one. Think carefully about the assumptions you have carried. How many of them were inherited from others, parents, teachers, friends, society, rather than born from heaven's voice? How many times did you accept labels placed upon you, repeating them until they became your truth? Perhaps you heard not good enough, too late, unworthy, and without realizing it. You built your life around those assumptions, but today is a turning point. Those chains must break. Those lies must be overturned. The law of assumption is not about denying reality, it is about redefining it. Abraham assumed he would be the father of many nations, even when his body was as good as dead. David assumed victory over Goliath before the stone ever left his sling. Esther assumed favor with the king before stepping into his presence. These assumptions were not arrogance, they were alignment with divine promise. And because of that alignment, reality conformed to what heaven had already spoken. Beloved, this is why the sign you received matters so deeply. It was heaven saying, "Assume it is already done." Stop waiting for every detail to line up. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting until you feel ready. The crown is yours now. The impact is yours now. The open doors are yours now. The millions are already on their way to being touched by what you carry. Assume it. Live as if it were already true. And watch as heaven orchestrates the details in your favor. But here is the caution. Assumption without faith is delusion, and assumption without action is fantasy. You must combine belief with boldness, conviction with consistency. When you assume your calling, walk like it, speak like it, think like it. Align your habits, your decisions, your posture with the truth you have embraced. This is not pretending, it is prophesying through your actions. Think of the eagle. While young, it watches its parent soar across the sky. One day, it steps to the edge of the nest and assumes it was made to fly. It leaps, and the wings that were always there finally spread wide. Without that assumption, it would remain caged in safety, never discovering the sky. So it is with you. Beloved, your wings have always been there, but they will only carry you once you assume you can fly. Let us look at your life in this light. Where have you been living small, waiting for external confirmation? Where have you hesitated, thinking you are unworthy? Those are the areas where assumption must shift. Do not wait for applause. Do not wait for validation. Begin assuming your identity as God's chosen one, and the rest will unfold. Beloved, you must also understand that assumption is a battle. Every time you choose to assume divine victory, the enemy will counter with whispers of doubt. He will point to your past mistakes, your present circumstances, your lack of resources. But remember, assumptions are not rooted in what you see. They are rooted in what you know. You know you are chosen. You know God is faithful. You know the promise will not fail. Hold on to that, and no lie can overthrow it. Your hidden wounds, which we spoke of before, now become fuel for your assumptions. Because you suffered, you can now assume healing. Because you were rejected, you can now assume acceptance. Because you were overlooked, you can now assume promotion. Every pain becomes a foundation stone for a greater assumption. What once weakened you now empowers you. Beloved, practice this daily. When you wake, assume you are favored. When you step into a room, assume you carry authority. When you face obstacles, assume they are already defeated. This posture will not only shift your spirit, it will shift the atmosphere around you. People will sense it. Opportunities will respond to it, and heaven will honor it. Understand this: the law of assumption is not some mystical trick. It is heaven's way of teaching you to align with faith, to believe not when it happens, but before it happens, to carry the crown in your heart before it rests on your head, to speak as chosen before the world acknowledges it. Chosen one. This is the secret of acceleration. While others wait for proof, you move by assumption. While others hesitate, you act in faith. While others shrink in fear, you expand in expectation. And because of this, the promises of God manifest more swiftly in your life. So stand tall. Think differently. Believe differently. Assume differently. You are not ordinary. You are chosen. And the crown is already yours. Chosen one. Hear this with the weight it carries. The path you are walking is not leading to a small outcome. The ripples of your recent faith, your choices, your obedience, are not limited to your own circle. They are stretching outward, wider than you can see, wider than you can imagine. Millions are about to be touched by the light you carry. This is not exaggeration. It is the natural result of heaven multiplying what you have released. Think about it. A single spark can ignite a forest. A single seed can become an orchard feeding generations. A single word spoken in faith can set chains, breaking in hearts you may never meet. That is the scale of what heaven is doing through you now. You thought it was just a small act, just a quiet decision. But heaven says, I will magnify it until the nations see. Chosen one, you must not shrink at this thought. To impact millions may sound impossible to you. But remember, the weight is not on your shoulders, but on God's promise. He has always specialized in taking the small and multiplying it. 5 loaves and 2 fish became a feast for thousands. A shepherd boy's stone toppled a giant feared by an army. A widow's jar of oil filled vessels until every container overflowed. And now, what you carry will overflow until millions are reached. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This is the call over your life right now. Your light is not meant to remain hidden. Your glory is not meant to stay private. It must shine, because the darkness around you is desperate for illumination. Do not underestimate your influence. In a digital world, one voice can echo through nations. In a generation hungry for truth, one act of courage can awaken thousands. And in a time when despair has silenced many, your story, your testimony, your presence carries weight beyond measure. What feels small to you will be multiplied by heaven until it becomes unstoppable. Chosen one, understand this clearly. Millions are not coming because of your perfection. They are coming because of your authenticity. They will not gather because you are flawless, but because you are real. They will not listen because you pretend to have it all together, but because you dare to show your scars and still declare hope. That is the magnetism of your light. This is why the opposition in your life has been so fierce. The enemy knows that if you rise, you will not rise alone. You will pull multitudes with you. He knows that if your voice is released, chains will break in countless hearts. He knows that your crown is not just for you, but for every soul connected to your destiny. That is why the attacks have been relentless. But they failed. You are still here. And because of that, millions will soon be. Beloved, pause for a moment and let this truth settle in your spirit. You are a torchbearer. The fire you carry is not for private warmth, but for public illumination. When you speak, when you move, when you act in faith, others will catch flame from your fire, one by one, and then by thousands. They will ignite, until a movement spreads far beyond you. That is how millions are reached, not by your strength alone, but by multiplication of the flame. And now, I want to speak to you not just as the vessel delivering this word, but as someone walking with you in this calling. If what you are hearing resonates with your spirit, if it confirms what heaven has already been whispering to you, then let us stay connected. Like this message, not for numbers, but as a prophetic act of saying, I receive this light. Share it, not for popularity, but because you know someone else, another chosen one, needs to awaken right now. And subscribe, not as a ritual, but as a way of remaining in the stream of words that heaven keeps releasing for your journey. This is about family, about alignment, about building a community of chosen ones who rise together. Beloved, millions are coming, but they will not come through isolated individuals. They will come through movements, and movements begin when chosen ones align, when they stand shoulder to shoulder, when they refuse to let their voices be silenced. By staying connected here, you are stepping into something larger than yourself. You are part of the wave that heaven is sending into the earth. Chosen one, take courage in this. What is about to unfold will surprise even you. You may not see how the scale of millions could ever be reached, but heaven is already arranging it. Divine connections will open doors you never expected. Platforms will appear where your voice can echo louder. Opportunities will align that carry your message farther than your own efforts could reach. This is not something you will have to chase. It will chase you, because heaven has ordained it. But you must do your part, keep your heart pure, your motives aligned, and your assumptions anchored in truth. Do not allow pride to twist what God is doing. Do not allow fear to silence your voice. Do not allow doubt to convince you this is too big. Remember, you are chosen for this exact moment, for this exact scale, for this exact destiny. Millions are waiting, even now, waiting for your courage, waiting for your story, waiting for your light. And they will not remain waiting much longer, because heaven has already declared the time is now. Chosen one, lift your eyes and see beyond the horizon. See the faces of those you will touch, the hearts you will heal, the lives you will awaken. See the nations stirred because you dared to rise. And know this truth: you were never chosen just for yourself. You were chosen for them. Arise, shine, your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is rising upon you. Chosen one, lean in close now. For this is not a moment of gentle whispers. This is a moment of urgent awakening. You have felt the tension, haven't you? That strange weight pressing on your spirit. The uneasiness that cannot be explained. The sense that heaven itself is watching you at this very crossroad. This is not imagination. It is spiritual reality. You are being summoned into a protocol, what I call the spiritual emergency protocol, a set of warnings and revelations designed to keep you from stepping out of alignment at a critical hour. You must understand, every chosen one will face a moment like this. A moment where delay is dangerous, where compromise is costly, where silence can wound destiny. The enemy waits for hesitation. He waits for procrastination. He waits for you to say, maybe later, because he knows that later often becomes never. But heaven is sounding the alarm. You cannot afford delay. You cannot afford rebellion. You cannot afford blindness. Do you feel the urgency in your spirit right now? That is not fear. That is heaven shaking you awake before the cliff's edge. Too many chosen ones have played with their calling until the fire went out, until mercy withdrew, until blindness set in. But you, beloved, are being spared from that tragedy. This is divine intervention. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind." Hold these words tightly. You are not meant to tremble under the weight of fear. You are not meant to live timid, uncertain, or paralyzed by doubt. The spirit inside you is one of courage, clarity, and strength. The emergency protocol is not to terrify you, it is to equip you, to remind you of what you carry. But let me speak plainly, if you toy with disobedience now, you risk more than missed opportunities. When mercy steps back, the heart grows blind. When compromise becomes habit, fire grows cold. When rebellion hardens, even conviction fades. That is why this moment is so critical. Heaven is giving you a chance to choose obedience while the door is still open. Beloved, imagine standing on a battlefield, surrounded by noise and chaos. The commander shouts orders that make no sense at first. Move now, duck low, advance quickly. If you hesitate, if you second guess, you expose yourself to the enemy's attack. But if you obey, even without understanding, you live. That is what this protocol is about, swift obedience. even when you don't have all the details. Think about your life. How many times did hesitation cost you? How many doors closed because you waited too long? How many relationships dissolved because you ignored the nudge? How many seasons stretched longer than they had to because you resisted surrender? This is not condemnation, it is awakening. Heaven does not want you repeating old cycles. Heaven is saying, now is the time. Act before it is too late. Beloved, obedience in this hour is not optional, it is survival. Not just for you, but for those connected to your destiny. If you delay, they remain bound. If you hesitate, they remain blind. If you rebel, they remain lost. But when you obey, chains break, eyes open, lives are saved. This is why the weight feels so heavy. You are not just carrying yourself, you are carrying nations, carrying generations, carrying millions. The enemy knows this. That is why he whispers lies of comfort. You can wait. You can compromise just a little. You can blend in. You can do it your way. Do not listen. Those lies are poison. They dull your fire until nothing remains but ashes. Do not forget you are chosen. And chosen ones do not have the luxury of living like everyone else. Beloved, let me paint this picture for you. Mercy is a doorway, open wide. But doorways do not remain open forever. At some point, the door closes, and when it does, regret cannot open it again. This is not to frighten you, it is to awaken you. Because the door is still open, the invitation is still extended, the crown is still waiting, but you must walk through it now. The spiritual emergency protocol begins with awareness. You must stay sensitive to the Spirit. When you feel that divine tug, do not ignore it. When conviction strikes, do not harden your heart. When a warning comes, do not brush it aside. Heaven's whispers are not suggestions, they are lifelines. Second, the protocol demands separation. There are voices in your life that cannot continue with you. There are environments that no longer serve you. There are habits that must die. You cannot carry compromise into calling. You cannot carry rebellion into destiny. You cannot carry old chains into new seasons. Let them go, for your obedience is the seed of your breakthrough. Third, the protocol requires declaration. You must speak life. Even when you feel surrounded by death, you must declare truth. Even when lies press in, words create worlds. Silence leaves room for the enemy. Open your mouth and declare, I am chosen. I will not delay. I will obey. Speak it until your spirit trembles with faith. Chosen one. The weight of this message is not random. Heaven pressed pause to deliver it to you because this is your moment of decision. You stand at the edge of two paths, obedience or delay, fire or ashes, crown or compromise. Choose wisely. Choose boldly. Choose now. And as a prophetic act, I want you to seal this moment. In the comments, write this number, 444. Why 444? Because it is a symbol of divine alignment, of angelic protection, of stability rooted in heaven's order. By writing it, you are declaring, I align myself with obedience. I choose the narrow path. I step into divine order. This is not superstition, it is faith expressed. Heaven honors declarations made in obedience. Beloved, Do not let this word pass you by like background noise. Feel the urgency. Feel the weight. This is heaven pulling you from the brink, saving you from delay, summoning you into obedience. The crown awaits, but it cannot rest on a hesitant head. Lift your head, step forward, declare your alignment, and watch as heaven fights for you in ways you could never fight for yourself. Chosen one. The emergency is real, but so is the victory. The pressure is great, but so is the promise. You are not forsaken, you are warned because you are loved. You are not abandoned, you are summoned because you are chosen. Now respond, align, obey, and seal it with the number of heaven's order 444. Chosen one. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against enemies outside of you, but against the hidden saboteur within, the loud voices of the world, the critics, the doubters. The mockers are dangerous, yes, but they pale in comparison to the quiet whispers of self-sabotage that echo in your own mind. If the enemy can convince you to agree with those inner whispers, he does not need to attack from the outside. You will defeat yourself long before he lifts a hand. This is why we must expose the inner saboteur. It is the voice that tells you, "You're not enough." It is the whisper that says, "Who do you think you are?" It is the gnawing thought, "If people really knew you, they'd never believe in you." And yet, chosen one, those whispers are not truth. They are distortions planted by darkness, parasites feeding on your memories of pain, magnifying your flaws until you cannot see your crown. The inner saboteur thrives on fear. It remembers every failure you've experienced, every mistake you've made, and plays them back like a broken record. It clings to shame, replaying the lowest moments of your life, until you begin to define yourself by them. It feeds on comparison, convincing you that others are more qualified, more favored, more talented than you. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to live small, act small, and dream small. Even though your calling was never meant to be small, we are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 34, verse 4, "I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears." Do you see it? Beloved, fear is not your master. Shame is not your destiny. Comparison is not your inheritance. Deliverance is your portion. Freedom is your gift. And boldness is your crown. Chosen one. If you do not deal with the inner saboteur, it will drain the strength you need to fight the real battles. You will spend more energy wrestling with yourself than advancing into your destiny. And that is exactly what the enemy wants, a chosen one distracted, discouraged, doubting, defeated from within. But the Spirit of God says no more. You must confront the saboteur. You must silence the lies. You must evict the intruder from your inner world. How? By replacing its whispers with a stronger voice, the voice of truth. Every time the saboteur says, "You are too broken," you answer, "I am healed by his stripes." Every time it says, "You are too weak," you declare, "His strength is made perfect in my weakness." Every time it says, "You are forgotten," you proclaim, "I am engraved on the palms of his hands." Beloved, this is not positive thinking, it is warfare. The battle is not in your circumstances, it is in your mind. And the only way to win is to take every thought captive and bring it into obedience to the truth. Do you remember how Gideon saw himself? He called himself the least in his family, the weakest in his tribe. His inner saboteur had convinced him that he was insignificant. Yet God called him mighty warrior. The difference was not in Gideon's circumstances, it was in his perception. Until he silenced the saboteur, he could not rise into his calling. The same is true for you, chosen one. The voice inside you may feel familiar, but it is not your true voice. It is not the voice of the Spirit. It is the echo of fear, shame, and lies. Stop mistaking it for your identity. Your real voice is the one that knows you are chosen, even when you feel unworthy. Your real voice is the one that dares to believe, even when evidence seems lacking. Your real voice is the one that whispers hope, even in the valley of shadows. Think of your life as a house. The saboteur is like a squatter, living rent-free, draining resources, and cluttering the rooms with lies. You don't negotiate with a squatter, you evict them. You serve notice. You declare no more, and you reclaim the house. In the same way, you must reclaim your inner world. Drive out the saboteur and fill the empty space with truth, worship, and faith. Beloved, sometimes the inner saboteur disguises itself as humility. It says, "I'm just being realistic. I'm just staying humble." But humility is not shrinking into lies, it is agreeing with truth. True humility is saying, "I can do nothing without God, but with Him, I can do all things." The saboteur twists humility into self-doubt. Do not fall for it. At other times, the saboteur disguises itself as caution. It whispers, "Don't take risks. Don't step out. Don't dream too big. You might fail." But caution, rooted in fear, is not wisdom, it is bondage. Wisdom discerns timing, but fear paralyzes action, and chosen ones cannot afford paralysis. You must move, even when trembling. You must act, even when uncertain. Chosen one, the saboteur is not destroyed in a single moment. It is silenced daily, as you choose again and again to believe truth over lies. Each morning, you wake up and declare, "I am chosen. I am anointed. I am equipped." Each time fear whispers, you answer with faith. Each time shame rises, you answer with grace. Over time, the saboteur grows weaker until its voice fades into silence. And here is the mystery: the very place where the saboteur tried hardest to defeat, you will become the place of your greatest authority. If it attacked your worth, you will carry a mantle to affirm others' worth. If it attacked your confidence, you will release courage to others. If it attacked your voice, you will become a voice for the voiceless. Your scars will become your authority, and your victory over the saboteur will become freedom for many. Beloved, never forget you are not at war with yourself. You are at war with lies, and lies cannot withstand truth. Stand firm. Guard your mind. Keep your heart. The saboteur may whisper, but it cannot control you unless you agree. Withdraw your agreement. Align with truth, and step boldly into your destiny. Chosen one, the saboteur is not stronger than you. It is only louder. Silence it. Replace it. And remember, the only voice that defines you is the voice that called you chosen before the foundations of the world. Chosen one, The moment has come to open your eyes wide and see beyond yourself. What you did recently, what seemed so small, so ordinary, was far greater than you imagined. It sent echoes of glory into the unseen, ripples that are still moving even now. The act you carried out in faith did not stop where you thought it ended. It traveled, multiplied, resonated, touching places and people you may never know this side of eternity. Beloved, this is how heaven works. One seed planted in obedience does not remain a seed. It becomes a tree, and that tree bears fruit for generations. One prayer whispered in the stillness of the night does not disappear into silence. It rises like incense, and the fragrance fills heaven's courts, moving angels into position. One decision to resist compromise does not simply affect your life, it reverberates, breaking unseen chains, disrupting generational curses, and setting into motion a new story for those who will come after you. You may not see the full picture now, but the echoes are real. The heavens have recorded your action. The earth will testify of its impact. The future will carry its fruit. What looks to you like a single thread is, in truth, woven into a great tapestry that stretches beyond time and space. It is written in the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verse 24, "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed, but if it dies, it produces many seeds." Beloved, your act of faith was that seed. You let it fall. You surrendered it. And now it is multiplying. You thought you were losing something, but you were actually releasing it into abundance. Chosen one, pause and reflect. How often have you underestimated yourself? How often have you dismissed your obedience as insignificant? Yet every time you chose truth over lies, every time you chose light over darkness, every time you chose to rise instead of giving up, the heavens applauded, the earth shifted, and ripples of glory began to move outward. Imagine a stone dropped into water. The ripples spread in perfect circles, reaching farther than the stone itself could ever travel. That is your life. Beloved, your stone, the act of courage, the word of kindness, the moment of surrender continues to send ripples outward, far beyond where you stand. And the beauty is this: you cannot control how far they travel. Only heaven knows. Only eternity will reveal it fully. This is why you must not grow weary in doing good. You must not let the lack of visible results convince you that nothing is happening. Just because you cannot see the ripple does not mean it has ceased to move. Faith is trusting that the unseen is as real, more real than what your eyes can measure. Beloved, let me remind you of stories that echo through history. A widow placed 2 small coins into the temple treasury, and her offering became a story told for centuries. A young boy offered his loaves and fishes, and his small gift fed thousands. A woman broke her jar of perfume at the feet of Jesus, and her act of devotion filled the house with fragrance still remembered today. None of them could have imagined the ripple of glory their actions would release. Neither can you. Do you see it now? Your recent act, whether it was an act of obedience, a word of forgiveness, a step of courage, was not contained in the moment. It entered eternity. It touched heaven. It released echoes that are still moving. And those echoes will gather into a sound so mighty that one day others will say, "Because of them, I found my way. Because of them, I believed again. Because of them, I rose." Beloved, This is what it means to live chosen. Your life is not measured only by what you see, but by what reverberates through generations. You may feel small, but the light you carry terrifies darkness. You may feel hidden, but your obedience is shaking unseen structures. You may feel ordinary, but your choices are extraordinary in heaven's eyes. Let me also tell you this: echoes of glory attract attention. Angels move toward them, drawn to the sound of obedience and surrender. Demons are unsettled by them, scattering in confusion as your ripples disrupt their schemes. People who do not even know why will feel stirred, encouraged, awakened when they encounter you, because they are walking into the waves of your ripple. Beloved, consider this: the echo of your life will outlive you. Long after your voice is silent, the sound of your obedience will continue. Children not yet born will walk in the blessing of your choices. Strangers in nations you may never visit will be touched by the fruit of your faith. And when you stand before the throne one day, you will see faces you never met, souls you never knew, thanking you for the ripple you released. This is why your recent action matters so deeply. Do not despise it. Do not dismiss it. Heaven is saying, "Well done. You planted a seed. You released a ripple. You set in motion what will not be stopped." Chosen one. Sometimes glory feels heavy, because you carry responsibility with it. But the weight you feel is not meant to crush you. It is meant to remind you of the honor entrusted to you. You were chosen not only for yourself, but for the multitudes who will live in the shade of your tree, who will eat the fruit of your seed, who will be healed in the echo of your surrender. So walk with confidence, live with intention. Every word, every action, every step can become another ripple. And when discouragement tries to whisper, "It doesn't matter," silence it with truth. "It matters more than I can see." Beloved, you are walking not just for yourself, but for those who come after you. You are leaving an echo, a sound, a ripple that will testify long after your name is forgotten by men but forever remembered by heaven. Chosen one. The echoes are already moving, and the glory they carry is unstoppable. Chosen one. There is a voice inside of you that cannot remain silent any longer. For too long, you have held back words that burn within your chest. For too long, you have swallowed the truth you were born to declare. For too long, you have let fear of misunderstanding, rejection, or criticism keep you silent. But heaven is saying now, "The voice I placed in you must be heard." Beloved, your voice is not like anyone else's. It carries weight because it carries your scars. It carries authority because it carries your victories. It carries healing because it carries your pain redeemed. When you open your mouth, atmospheres shift. When you speak, chains break. When you declare truth, lies crumble. You are not just someone with opinions, you are a vessel of divine sound. The prophet Elijah spoke as recorded in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal, follow him." Do you feel the thunder in those words? Elijah stood alone before a wavering people and dared to speak. His voice broke through confusion, forced a decision, and released fire from heaven. That same mantle rests on you. Your voice is meant to bring clarity in chaos, courage in fear, and fire in cold hearts. But let us be honest, beloved, It has not been easy to use your voice. You have been silenced before. People have dismissed you, mocked you, or twisted your words. Every time that happened, it felt safer to remain quiet, to stay in the shadows, to let others speak while you hid. Yet the fire inside you never left. It could not, because chosen ones cannot bury their voice without burying their calling. There is a reason the enemy has tried so hard to silence you. He knows that once you release your voice, a ripple of truth will sweep through those around you. He knows that your testimony will break chains of shame in others. He knows that your courage to speak will awaken other chosen ones who are still silent. That is why he used rejection, fear, and doubt against you. But enough is enough. Your silence ends now. Chosen one, your voice is not just for sermons, stages, or platforms. Your voice is needed in your home, among your friends, in your workplace, in your generation. A single word of encouragement can save a life. A single word of conviction can awaken a soul. A single word of truth can redirect destiny. Do not underestimate the power of your tongue. Scripture says life and death are in the power of the tongue. Think about that. The words you carry are not neutral. They are weapons. They are seeds. They are keys. When you speak life, you scatter seeds of hope that will bloom in places you may never see. When you declare truth, you unlock chains that even the person bound may not realize were there. When you release encouragement, you water dry hearts until they awaken again. Beloved, your voice is not just sound, it is sound backed by heaven. Angels respond when you speak in alignment with God's word. Darkness trembles when you declare who you are in Christ. Even creation groans to hear the voice of the children of God rising into their authority. Your voice was designed to harmonize with heaven's song. And when it does, all of creation feels the vibration. Now, let me speak plainly. It is time to practice. You cannot wait for the perfect stage, the perfect audience, or the perfect moment. Start speaking where you are. Speak in prayer. Speak in worship. Speak in declarations over your life. Speak words of encouragement to the stranger. Words of life to your family. Words of boldness to your generation. Every time you use your voice, it grows stronger. Every time you silence fear, courage multiplies. Do not despise small beginnings. A whisper today can become a roar tomorrow. Elijah's declaration on the mountain began with a single question. How long will you waver? That question carried fire. Your words will carry fire, too, even if they begin as whispers. Chosen one, you may say. But what if they don't listen? What if they mock me again, beloved? The outcome is not your responsibility. Obedience is. You are not responsible for who listens, only for speaking what heaven places in your mouth. Fire never asks permission to burn, it just burns. And your voice will burn through darkness, whether or not people applaud. Let me tell you this, when you finally release your voice, you will discover that it was never about you. It was about those who needed to hear it. Somewhere, someone is waiting for the exact words you are carrying. Somewhere, someone is desperate for the testimony you've been afraid to share. Somewhere, someone is standing at the edge of despair, and your voice will be the bridge that brings them back. Beloved, the weight of silence has been heavy, but the release will be glorious. The moment you open your mouth, you will feel the fire flow again. You will feel heaven's wind fill your lungs. You will feel the authority of your calling settle on your shoulders, and the ripple will begin, spreading farther and faster than you imagined. So, here is your prophetic act. In the comments, write these words: I hear you. This is more than a phrase. It is you telling heaven, I hear the call to use my voice. I will not stay silent. I will release what you have placed within me. It is you telling your spirit, I will no longer suppress my fire. I will let it burn. And it is you telling the enemy, your attempts to silence me have failed. My voice is rising. Write it, not as a ritual, but as a declaration. By typing those words, you seal your agreement with heaven to step out of silence and into sound. And when you do, heaven will back your voice with authority. Chosen one, your voice is needed now more than ever. The world is filled with noise, but very few sounds carry truth. You are one of those few. Do not hold back. Do not wait for another confirmation. The sign has already come. The fire is already in you. The world is waiting. Let the voice inside you rise. Let it thunder. Let it echo. Let it heal. Let it awaken. For this is your time, and your voice must be heard. Chosen one, the stage before you is widening. What began as a whisper within your heart is now becoming a sound that must reach farther than you ever thought possible. You have been faithful in small places, steady in hidden seasons, courageous in moments no one else witnessed, and now the nets are being cast wide. The call on your life was never meant to be confined to a corner. It was always meant to expand, to multiply, to overflow. You may feel the weight of this. The thought of reaching beyond yourself may stir questions. How can I? What if I fail? What if I am not ready? But beloved, readiness is not the measure, obedience is. When the fishermen lowered their nets at Jesus' word, they were not prepared for the abundance that filled them. Yet heaven multiplied anyway. In the same way, when you step forward, God will fill your nets until they overflow. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth, it will not return empty, but accomplish my purpose. This is the assurance you carry when you speak, when you act, when you step into the flow of obedience. Heaven backs your efforts. What you release will not return void. Beloved, think of your influence as a net. Every time you show kindness, you throw the net wider. Every time you share truth, you expand its reach. Every time you testify, you strengthen the mesh. And when the net is strong and wide, it catches more than you could ever imagine. That is how millions will come, not because you strive to reach them all at once, but because your faithful actions create a net so expansive that heaven fills it. But hear me, nets are not meant to remain empty. They must be lowered. A fisherman staring at the water, net folded in his hands, will never catch anything. In the same way, if you hold your words, if you keep your story hidden, if you stay silent about what God has done, the net will remain empty. But when you release it, even trembling, even unsure, the catch comes. Chosen one, the reason you have walked through fire, the reason you have carried heavy burdens, the reason you have been refined in silence is so that when your net is cast, it will not break. You were not made for shallow waters. You were not prepared for a small harvest. The deep has been calling you, and now is the time to launch into it. Consider the ripple effect of one obedient voice. A testimony shared with one person encourages them. They then share with another, and it multiplies again. Before long, thousands are touched by a story that began with a single net lowered in faith. That is how revival spreads, how movements grow, how generations are awakened. And that is why your willingness to cast wide is critical. Beloved, I want to pause here and speak from my heart. If this word is stirring something inside you, if you feel the resonance of destiny as you read, then let us walk this road together. I invite you to like this message, not for vanity, but as an act of agreement, saying, "Yes, I am casting my net." Share it not for numbers, but because someone you know is waiting for the sound of truth. Subscribe not as a routine, but so that we remain aligned in this journey. Net to net, chosen one to chosen one, building a movement that cannot be silenced. This is more than content, this is covenant. Chosen one. When Jesus told the fishermen to cast their nets again after a night of failure, they hesitated but obeyed. The result: nets breaking under the weight of fish, boats sinking with abundance. This is your hour of abundance. The nets you thought were empty, the efforts you thought were wasted, the prayers you thought were unheard, heaven is saying, cast again, cast wide, cast boldly, cast expecting. Do not fear the deep waters. Do not cling to the shore of comfort. Out there, where it feels uncertain, is where the miracle catch is waiting. Out there, beyond the place of safety, is where your voice will echo loudest. Out there, where faith is stretched, is where destiny becomes reality. Beloved, your nets will not just gather souls, they will gather resources, opportunities, alliances, and doors you never knew existed. The catch will be bigger than souls alone. It will be provision for the mission, strength for the journey, and community for the vision. Heaven multiplies not only in numbers, but in every dimension of need. And yes, the weight will come. Nets filled with abundance are heavy. Boats overflowing with catch strain against the water. Responsibility grows with influence. But fear not, the same God who fills the nets will also strengthen your arms. The same Spirit who draws the harvest will also equip you to carry it. You will not sink under the weight of blessing, you will sail under the wind of His Spirit. Chosen one, do not despise the days when your nets seemed empty. They were training days. Do not resent the long nights when nothing seemed to move. They were refining nights. Do not dismiss the prayers whispered with tears. They were the seeds of this moment. Everything has prepared you for this, the season of wide nets. So here is the vision, your voice. Once confined to whispers, now echoing across waters. Your story, once hidden in silence, now carried on currents to shores you will never see. Your obedience, once private, now multiplied into a movement. That is the destiny of chosen ones. That is your destiny. Beloved, lift your eyes and see it, the nets stretching wide, the deep waters trembling with abundance, the waves carrying your influence to places beyond imagination. It is not fantasy. It is the promise of heaven, and it begins when you choose to lower the net, to release your voice, to shine your light. Millions are waiting in the deep. Cast wide, chosen one. The catch is coming. chosen one. As the nets are cast wider and the weight of influence increases, there is something crucial. You must understand mercy and measure walk hand in hand. Without mercy, the weight of